Next up, we have quite the treat for you. In 2018, Texas Country Reporter co-host Bob and Kelli Phillips asked composer David Lovrien to create a symphonic program where they could narrate the stories of Texas history and culture. What emerged from this project was a Texas Tribute, a 7-movement work celebrating the spirit of Texas. It was first performed by the Wichita Falls Symphony in 2021, and the band version of the piece was premiered by the Dallas Winds the same year. Following that, it went on a well-received statewide tour in 2022. Tonight, we'll be bringing to you 3 of the movements in what we're calling an Arlington Tribute, honoring the 150 years of the city's history. But we couldn't have just anyone narrate this piece, and trust me, I would be just anyone. For music as big as Texas, we needed a voice as big as Texas. So please join me in welcoming to the stage radio legend, Jody Dean.
In the northern region of what would become the great state of Texas, a great deal happened before there was an Arlington. A military road, Indian battles, a failed fort, hijacked Army gold, a Texas Ranger station, Comanche attacks, and the Treaty of Marybone Springs, the first ever treaty between a dozen Native Americans and the short-lived Republic of Texas. But the Arlington we know began with a piercing train whistle 150 years ago this year. That was when Texas and Pacific Engine number 20 pulled into a brand new little town. A freshly surveyed half-mile square and 100-yard blocks with no name and no population, a place split by prairie to the west and woodlands to the east. What the Texas and Pacific Railroad wanted was a train stop midway between Fort Worth and Dallas, a place to refuel locomotives and provide a boarding place for pioneers to send their cotton, wheat, cattle, and other crops to market. No one could have predicted this place would eventually become what amounted to the magic middle of a future metroplex. The nameless condition did not last long. The surveyor of this new community and the community's postmaster proposed a name, Johnson City, in honor of the legendary father of Tarrant County, Texas Ranger and plantation owner Colonel Middleton Tate Johnson. The Postal Service declined because it was too close to that of another community with a similar name, Johnson Station. The final choice was the name we know today. This brand new little town would be called Arlington, in honor of Robert E. Lee's family home, connecting the newest part of Texas to the Old South. This new Arlington did not have an official government, so the issues of law and order were handled by a vigilante group. Immediately, this train stop of a place established a trend that continues today. It began to grow. A general store, a blacksmith shop, a boarding house, a new cotton gin, and, of course, a new saloon. People began building homes and churches. Presbyterians were followed by Methodists, followed by Baptists. By 1884, this new Arlington had grown from nothing but a survey sketch to about 500 people, too big for a village. It was time to become official. Articles of municipal incorporation were filed. The first aldermen were elected, along with the first official mayor, George Finger. The first ordinances of the community were simple, such as don't wear your guns in town, no business on Sunday, no indecent exposure, and don't ride your horse into a home or business. Not everyone paid sufficient attention to these new laws, and there were notable exceptions, such as an 1892 gunfight outside the train station that left 4 men and a horse dead. More casualties than at the gunfight at the OK Corral. But gradually, the Old West started becoming a more peaceful New West. The town alderman even adopted a new name, where East meets West. So many farmers began showing up on weekends that there wasn't enough water for the people or their livestock. The solution to this was to drill a deep well right in the middle of Center and Main Streets, a few steps from the train station. The well did indeed strike water, but what gushed forth was not what townsfolk had in mind. This water was, charitably, fragrant, smelling of sulfur and chemicals. The first big municipal project of the city appeared to be a flop, except that enterprising merchants began to market the water as healthy to drink and to bathe in. They called it Carlsbad water. Arlington became not only a farming town, but a spa town. Because sometimes you just have to be enterprising. By 1900, with a population now at 1,000, Arlington was 5 years into the dream of becoming a college town. The citizens had invested money and dreams in Arlington College. The trouble being that the college kept going broke, then reinventing itself as a military academy or a finishing school before going broke again. There were half a dozen name changes, none of them sticking. Finally, this changed in 1917 when the college officially became Grubbs Vocational College, a branch of Texas A&M. The mascot for Grubbs was not one to foster fear in athletic rivals, though, as they were known as the Fighting Grubworms. In time, Grubbs became North Texas Agricultural, then Arlington State College, and finally the University of Texas at Arlington, with 42,000 students. Through the decades, Arlington has been and always will be a college town. That little college is now a Tier 1 research institution with multiple graduate programs. Though Arlington began as a Western agricultural town, by 1900 it marked its transition from pioneer community to a more modern place. The Arlington School District was created in 1902, the same year the interurban electric trolley began running through town. This was about the same time as a newfangled mode of transit, the personal automobile, really began catching on. With the interurban, a half-day buggy ride to Fort Worth or Dallas became a 30-minute trip, making it possible for the first time to adopt a lifestyle with which Arlington is now well familiar: the commuter. With the car, so long as there was a personal road, one could travel anywhere they wished at speeds that would soon pick up, and on highways and streets that would rapidly improve, which would be very soon. In 1922, that the city's access to the rest of the country and the rest of the country to the city would take place. This would be the nation's first national paved southern route, US 80, the famed Bankhead Highway, which would run all the way from Washington, D.C. to San Diego, California, on a glorious, fully paved highway. That this highway would also run through the middle of Arlington would change the city's look and access for the next half century. The bankhead would do more than reshape Arlington, shifting its business growth to what is now Division Street. This easy access would also create two unique ventures that, for a while, would make Arlington a kind of Las Vegas before Vegas. This would be gambling. Arlington Downs, a horse racing track built on East Division by millionaire oilman W.T. Wagner, would draw thousands of visitors to the city during its 1930s heydays, there to gamble away the day, and by night, those who wanted the track with deep pockets who could avail themselves of the notorious top-of-the-hill terrace, the casino on East Division. Also on Bankhead, the casino operated under the watchful eyes of proprietors Fred Browning and the famed Benny the Cowboy Binion. The terrace would last through Prohibition, through the Great Depression, and World War II, before finally closing for good in the late 1940s. The grounds of that casino, now occupied in a fluke of providence by Arlington Baptist University. By 1950, Arlington would move beyond its gambler past and soon elect a new 24-year-old mayor named Tom Vandergriff, who would be dubbed the Boy Mayor. He would take over the helm of a smaller city with 7,800 residents and reshape it into one of the fastest-growing municipalities in America. The pro-growth Vandergriff would be essential in achieving a major accomplishment by such a small town, a new General Motors plant that would provide more jobs than the entire community possessed and eventually use more water than the city's entire well sources could provide. A key motivator in the creation of Miracle Lake, Lake Arlington, in 1957. Vandergriff would be at the mayoral helm when another famed entrepreneur, Angus Wynn, chose Arlington both for the site of the sprawling Great Southwest Industrial District and also an entity that for many years would be the brand for Arlington. The entity that most visitors associated with Arlington, Six Flags Over Texas. It would be Vandergriff as well who would eventually achieve his long-standing desire to have a major sports entity play in Arlington. In what is still considered one of the greatest sports achievements in U.S. history, Vandergriff was able to persuade the former Washington Senators to move to Texas, where they changed their name to the Texas Rangers, our 2023 World Series champions. Not to be outdone, another mayor saw it at what at one time was considered impossible, attracting Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones to Arlington. That mayor, Bob Cluck, succeeded in doing so, with the Cowboys setting up shop at AT&T Stadium, playing their first game in 2009. Tonight, we celebrate Arlington's 150th anniversary. Arlington is more than 400,000 people strong and continuing to grow. That original half-mile little village now occupies almost 100 square miles. Arlington, known as the Dream City with good reason. It's a place where dreams come true.
He's noticeably taller than me. Please join me in another round of applause for Jody Dean and the Arlington Community Band. And go grubworms. We'd also like to take a moment to recognize local journalist, editor, publisher, columnist, and historian O.K. Carter, the author of the narration, and composer David Lovrien, who is here with us tonight. Could you stand, please, sir? For granting us permission to adapt his larger work into the one you heard today.